Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm William Worley, and today I'm going to be showing you how I restored an old family photo. So here we are inside of Adobe Photoshop, and this is a picture of my mom, then myself, and my little sister, just when we were toddlers. And we have a few other kids that my mom used to daycare when we were little. And so as you can see, everybody kind of likes to pile all over Mom. The nice thing about my mom being 6 foot tall at the time was that she made a really good horse or a cow. I remember her remarking one time when we were in daycare that she took turns giving kids rides on her back. She would get on her hands and knees, you know, and then kind of give everybody a ride as they were riding her back. And then, you know, when it came to my turn, you know, I would scream, my turn, my turn. And then she just like sarcastically remarked, I want to make sure everybody knows that I'm a horse or a cow. And then after when my mom had enough, she let me off and was about to get up. And then more kids were, no, my turn. And she just gives that look that says, go away, I'm done. Alright, so anyways, to get back to what we were doing, there's some things on this photo that I'd like to accomplish. As you can see, looking at this picture, we got some dirt and some grain and some smudges here that I'd like to remove, and we can do so by using the healing brush tool, and we can also use the patch tool as well. The other thing I want to work on is getting rid of some of these bright washed out spots or these bright spots as well, and we can do that by using curve adjustments. And then the final thing I want to do is open this up into Camera Raw and do some color correcting, color grading, sharpening, noise removal. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is get rid of all this dirt and scratches. So I'm going to go over here and grab my patch tool. And then so with the patch tool, oh actually first, you know, you don't want to start it off on the background layer. That is a big no-no. So I'm going to push Control D, and that's going to deselect everything. I actually want to create a new layer, and so it's real simple. You can go up to Layer, New, Layer, or you can push Shift Control N. Or you can go down here over to the and click on the Create New Layer icon. So make sure Content Aware is selected. Sample All Layers is checked. Now we can go ahead and start removing. I'm going to go ahead and undo that, and then I'm going to go ahead and deselect, and let me go ahead and try again. There we go, that looks better. Oh, and also I'm going to be spending some time petting the dog here too, because it's more important that I give him attention than do this. I'm going to get rid of this black spot right down over here. Alright, so as you can see, we have gotten rid of the majority of the dirt, scratches, and areas. So, I'm going to turn this layer off. Here's the before, and there's the after. So that really cleaned it up really good here. And so the next thing I want to go ahead and do is, if you can see where these washed out spots are, including on my mom's hair, I want to go ahead and fix those up, and we can go ahead and do that by creating a curve adjustment layer. So if we click over here, over into the layer adjustments icon, select curves, and what I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and take my polygonal lasso tool here, and so that I can draw a selection of the area that I kind of want to darken. And I'm going to set the feather amount to 5. And then I'm just going to go ahead and then draw right around that washed out spot there on my mom's hair. And then, now that if I switch over to my curves adjustment layer, I'm going to go ahead and grab my hand slider tool, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on that washed out area, and I'm just going to go ahead and drag down. Oh, I almost forgot here. I'm going to go ahead and undo that there. We need to make sure that that as we drag down, that we make sure that it applies only to this selected area. So if I go ahead and push Control and then I'll make sure I have the mask property selected. Control and then I. So already that's affected the area outside of the mask, and we don't want that, so I'm going to go ahead and invert that by pushing Control and then I, and there we go. So as you can see, that's a bit too much there, so I'll go ahead and take our hand slider tool, and I might just kind of go ahead and bring that up a little bit, just until it kind of starts blending in. It's starting to look a little nicer here, and I think I might go ahead and switch to the red channel there, give it a little bit more color so that it looks more brownish. And that's starting to look much better there. And now I want to go ahead and do the same thing for the floor as well, but since the floor is a different color and a different level of contrast, I'm going to go ahead and use another curves adjustment layer. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I got my polygonal lasso tool here. And I'll go ahead and start drawing a selection around that area. Take the curves here, and already since I didn't do this previously, which I apologize for, but now since I had my selection already made, and then when I clicked on the adjustment layers icon and selected curves, it already applied that selection to a mask for this adjustment layer, so I can just go ahead and make the adjustments as I go. So with my hand slider tool selected, I'm going to go ahead and click in this area here, start dragging it down a bit just until we can get it to kind of blend in with the floor here. And I just want to go ahead and switch to the color channels here, see if I can add some color to get it to kind of blend in. There we go. And it probably doesn't need any more red. Alright, that's starting to come along together nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and start filling in this mask area. So I'm going to go ahead and take my brush tool. I'm just going to push B, select my brush, and then make sure white is selected, because with white you're going to be adding more to the mask. So I'm just going to go ahead and start painting in the area. Alright, so it's a little too strong there if you kind of compare it to this area here, so I might just take the opacity down a little bit. Or actually, if I do that, then that's kind of going to affect that area as well. So I might have to just go ahead and take another curves adjustment and brighten this area up here. So let me go ahead and take my polygonal lasso tool here and then just select around that dark area. What I might do is feather this mask out even more just so that it kind of blends in with the floor. Alright, that's looking a little bit better there. And I might go ahead and just kind of add more to this area here. So let me take my brush tool. Make sure my mask is selected, and then I can start painting in. There we go. And what happens if I just kind of paint over this area? May not want to do that. But over here, yeah, there we go, that's looking nice. Alright, so already the carpet's starting to look pretty good here. What I might want to go ahead and do is just kind of patch up some areas here, and I can do that with the healing brush. So let me go ahead and create a new layer. And then I'm going to go ahead, grab my healing brush, probably make my brush a little bigger, so I'm going to hold down the Alt key, right click, and then drag to the right, and that's going to make it larger. My bad. Alt click. Oh, we also want to make sure sample is set to all layers. Now I can alt click and then start clicking. There we go. And then I might just kind of do that for that little area there. So let me go ahead and just make my brush a bit smaller. I'll click in that area. And there we go. Let me check the hardness. Yeah, the hardness is way too hard there, so I'm going to make sure it's completely soft. I'm just going to go ahead and undo that. And then I'll go ahead and start again. There we go, that looks better. Alright, that's looking better here. Alright, so I think we're pretty good there as far as repairing some of the damages to this photo. There's the before, and then here's the after. So already that has made pretty much a huge difference. So now what I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and get started on the color correcting and the color grading. So what I want to go ahead and do is I want to get rid of some of the blown out areas in this picture, and also make some of the darker areas a bit brighter. And the way to do that is that I'm going to use the apply image technique. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go to adjustments and grab a curves adjustment layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and start dragging down there. That's going to make the image darker. And then I'm going to go down over to image and then apply image. Make sure I have invert unchecked here. And so as you can see, what that's done is that it's taken the curve adjustment layer and it's blending it in with the image below that by eliminating some of the very bright spots within the image. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK there. And once that's done, I can also adjust my curves adjustment layer until I kind of get to a point that I think is acceptable. So I think that looks pretty good there. I'm also going to go ahead and do the same thing with the shadows and the dark areas. So I'm going to go ahead and grab another curves adjustment layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and start dragging it up. And this time when I go to apply image, I'm going to make sure that invert is checked. So there we go. Might just take that down a little bit just so that it's not too blown out or washed out. So I think that's made a pretty fair difference when we use the two curve adjustment layers and use the applied image technique. So far it's looking pretty great. And so the last thing I want to go ahead and do is that I want to open this up into Camera Raw and start working on some more color correcting and color grading. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is with the top layer selected, I'm going to hold down the Shift key, click on the background layer, and then I'm going to hold down Control, Shift, Alt, and then E, and that's going to merge all these layers into a single layer. And now with this one selected, I can go to Filter, and then Camera Raw Filter. Assuming that it's going to pull up. Tick-tock. There we go. So here's where I'm going to start making my magic happen. So I'm going to go ahead and take my blacks here, and let's see what happens if I decrease them. I already like where it's going there. So I might just kind of take it down to about 55 here, and then let's see what I do with the shadows as well. Do I want to brighten them? Yeah, I kind of want to brighten them just a little bit, just because it brings out a little bit more detail and attention to my mom's hair. And let's face it, you know, my mom was pretty good looking back in the early 90s, and she still looks great too, don't get me wrong. And now let's see what happens when I go ahead and play with the whites. Do I want to decrease them? Definitely don't want to increase them, so I might just bring it down to a -30. And let's see what happens when I play with the highlights. I might bring the highlights up just probably to about maybe a 20, I'd say. And I don't want to go too high with the exposure. I might just take the exposure down a little bit, you know, just to kind of get rid of some of the blown out areas that you can see on the couch there. And what happens if I up the contrast? Doesn't look too bad. I might just kind of keep it around 10. So I'm just going to toggle before and after. Yeah, I think that's starting to look great there. And then let's see what happens when I play with the white balance here. So if I increase the temperature, Yeah, it's starting to look pretty good there. And now, what happens if I apply dehaze? Oops, too much. Dehaze is really good when you're kind of dealing with washed out images. Alright, I kind of like that. I'll kind of keep it down there. Now the clarity, that kind of like, you know, it's good for sometimes, you know, getting rid of like, you know, noise within the background or within your photo. But if you use too much, you know, you kind of tend to lose detail. So if I go in the opposite direction, you can tell that I'm starting to lose detail. But if I go into the right direction, you know, it's sharpening the image, but it's also making it look more grainy and noisy. So I might just kind of leave the clarity alone a bit. And now what happens when I play with the vibrance and the saturation? Now I might just leave the saturation alone and then just kind of up the vibrance a little bit. So what happens? Yeah, I might just kind of take it up to about a 30 there. Alright, so far I'm really liking it. And what I might go ahead and do is choose a profile for this overall look. So if I go ahead and click on, no, not those, but these 4 squares here, this is where we're going to browse all the profiles. So I might go down to modern, and I'm just going to go ahead and cycle through each of them. 4 looks good. Oh, 3 is actually pretty cool there. I might just click on that, but I'll just kind of keep browsing through them as I go. And that one's okay. Nah. Yeah, 3 looks fairly decent, but I wonder if there's more that I can choose from. Vintage. I might just leave the vintage alone. And what happens when I go to artistic? Well, number 4 here looks kind of nice. It really kind of makes the colors pop out a bit more. This one, but the one I currently have selected, you know, it just kind of like eliminates some of the noise that you can see on the couch and in the dark areas. Yeah, I might just keep it with the one I have selected. That's modern number 3. Too bad I can't flip a coin. And so what's also nice is that with my profile selected, I can go ahead and increase or decrease the amount. I might do that just a tad bit, so... So I think 70 probably looks about good there. So let me go ahead and close that. 4 and then after. Looking fantastic. So I want to go ahead and brush up on some of the details here. So I'll go ahead and click on the detail icon. And I want to go ahead and get rid of some of the noise. Probably about 20, I'd say. It looks pretty good there. That really took care of a lot of the noise that you can see on the couch. But it did kind of remove some of the detail in my mom's hair. So I might just go ahead and try increasing the sharpening some a bit. And so maybe probably about 30 sounds. It seems like it's enough. Perfect. All right. Let me go ahead and go back. Let's see. Vignetting. I might kind of go ahead and add a vignette too, just to like add more focus to the group here, you know. So about -40 looks kind of good here. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, I think that's looking fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and choose OK. And so there we have it. Here's the before. And there's the after. And I think that is amazing there. That really added a nice touch. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for watching this tutorial. Please be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more videos.